What is knowledge?
For the most part, knowledge is defined in terms of three key ingredients.
Silly sounding question.
That's not a silly question at all. I mean, it's a very good question. In epistemology, there's intense debate about what exactly knowledge is, how we should understand knowledge. For the most part, knowledge is defined in terms of three key ingredients. And there's then various differences between how you cash out those three ingredients. So at the least, it's widely regarded that to know something, to have knowledge, is to believe something. So if I know that there's a chair next to me, it's generally the case that I believe that there's a chair here. So that's one ingredient. The other is that knowledge is so-called factive. Yeah, it has to be true. So that corresponds to kind of facts in the world. So you can't have false knowledge. That wouldn't be an instance of knowledge. So the second ingredient is truth. You need a true belief for something to count as knowledge. But that is not enough still. You need a third and final ingredient, which is justification or warrant. So your beliefs need to be justified or warranted. And there's considerable debate in contemporary epistemology as to how you understand justification and warrant. But those three ingredients were for a long time the kind of dominant way of understanding knowledge. And then in the 1960s, a philosopher called Edmund Gettier came along and showed decisively that this simple tripartite analysis of knowledge was wrong. And he came up with a number of cases in which a person has a justified, a true belief that doesn't amount to knowledge. So one case that Gettier talks about is imagining a colleague who is in Barcelona, you believe they're in Barcelona, and another colleague who you think owns a Ford car. And your belief is justified, and it turns out true, that these are the case. But it's just a matter of luck, really, that these two things happen, that your colleague is in Barcelona and the other colleague owns a Ford. So Gettier showed that you can have cases of justified true belief that fall short of knowledge. And in the decade since the 1960s, since the publication of his famous paper, there's been considerable debate as to what knowledge is. But general consensus is that it at least requires truth, belief, and justification. And that's I think how many people how would commonsensically understand knowledge is you kind of think it's going to be true. It's going to be true. You've got to have good evidence, or it's got to be reasonable or justified, and you believe it, or you at least can represent it mentally in some way. So that's the kind of basic definition of knowledge: is it's justified true belief plus something else, some so-called anti-Gettier condition. So kind of an anti-luck condition. You can't have lucky knowledge, as it were. Luck seems to exclude knowledge. You can't have like a lucky guess. Doesn't count as knowledge.
How do we acquire knowledge?
There are many ways of acquiring knowledge. So I've already mentioned some along the way. So testimonial knowledge is a key source of knowledge.